with Mayor Beatty was a little bit different. She's indisposed right now, so as Council President, we had a little bit of delay, and so as a just temporary measure, we were going to advance the Milwaukie Bay Park Intergovernmental Agreement discussion. The first item, just make sure that the slides are up right now, so I think we may as well go along there. And here's it. Council President, I put this slide up to help remind us where we were. So, briefly, previous episode, if you might recall, last year, way back in 2025, where we left off, we had a great discussion on December 16th among the council about what we should do with our response from our disappointment to the county's basically responsible. Lively debate. We got to a place where we kind of considered and landed on acceptable financial terms. The council decided to allow the mayor to draft those financial terms in a letter and send it over to the county kind of as like, these are what we find acceptable at this point and willing to move forward. And we would love to see some positive momentum from the county by accepting these. Fast forward to 2026, in the current episode that we're in, January 13th, we received a response after the recess. County Commission was on recess on January 13th. They basically responded in what I think Councilor Massey would say is positive movement. And essentially, if you look at the first slide from the first episode, we asked for 5.6 million. On the next slide, it's probably better. I should have tried this.
Do I need to move?
You're good. Okay. Their response was essentially yes to proportional metro, yes to the trolley trail grant. They did not say yes to modest fee waivers. They said we could talk about that staff at a later date, which is fine. And then they did come up. They didn't meet us at 3.6 million in the SDC conversation, but they met us at 3.3. So our original was 3.1 million of current SDCs with a $500,000 ask of accrued SDCs between now and the time the park is built. They met 3.1 current SDCs, and they said how about 200,000 in accrued SDCs between now and then. And that's where we stand. So overall, we got 4.86 million on the table, as opposed to the 5.16 that we originally started at. So they've come up, and we feel like there's some positive here. And I think the next steps are, we told them, we responded back to them saying this is good, and we would love to see. We'd love to see your staff take these numbers and put them in draft IGAs again so that we can start discussing staff to staff. As I've heard, as today they met and they did not finish that discussion, so they're continuing discussion to next week. Hopefully we receive the draft IGA and no other issues. That's the update. The hope is the next steps really are draft IGAs in hand and staff to staff conversations about like maintenance, small ticket items, so to speak. Peter would say those are not small ticket items.
So to clarify, the county is just discussing putting those terms into the draft IGA, but they've already agreed to those terms, or they had collective consensus to advance those terms to us.
Yeah, as I understand it, they sent us over their response back to our counter. So those are their numbers. We're using their numbers.
Okay.
So we say those. Essentially, that sounds good. So we accept that. Give us the draft IGAs showing those updates, and we'll go from there. Did I miss anything, Councilor Massey?
No, I think that this is really the first sort of positive movement that we've seen. And it's not exactly what we wanted, but this is a good negotiation, and there's some other things obviously have to be worked out. But I think that there's at least a glide path to hopefully complete the negotiations and come up with something that's that we can work from. I will tell you that there's, from my point of view, there's some sense of urgency from my perspective, because obviously this is not going to pay for everything, so we have to seek, additional funding sources. And one of those big ones is grants. And so there's some windows for grant applications that are opening very soon. And I think that we would have trouble gathering figures in those grant submissions if this between us and the county is not settled. Because they're going to look at those and say, do we want to give them a grant when they're still feuding with each other and they can't decide what they want to do? And if we have, if not all of it, substantially behind us, then we're more likely to be successful in the grant submission process. And that, we'll never get all the grants that we kind of have on our wish list, but it's a substantial.
Yeah, those are good additions. Expediency, we've always wanted this to go faster than it has. We do hope that we can get to someplace in the next month or so.
Any questions or anything?
I just want to say thank you to the county. I think that this is a really good step forward. And there are a lot of choose your own adventure paths that could have been taken through this process. And I just really appreciate that they're having a constructive conversation about this. I don't think it's an easy one. And it's certainly not for us, but it's really not for them, given everything that they're taking into account and everything at the national level. It's really hard to prioritize forward movement in this, and they did. So I know you're watching. Thank you. I think this is a good step forward, and we'll await the IGA drafts and then review things at that point. But it's never really fun to have a conversation, in public meetings and over the course of multiple years and all of that. It's always easier, I think, to get in the same room and just kind of hammer it out. And that isn't an option at this point, but we're doing the next best thing. So anyway, just really appreciate their efforts and those of the staff and administration of the city who also prioritized this over the holidays.
Yeah, just thank you to our team too for hanging in there. It's like being in a dentist chair. So thank you for that, and for not allowing things to boil over to a worse situation, because it could have been a lot worse. I know we're dealing with more than just government stuff. There's, like I mentioned before, there's egos, there's past, there's history there. And this is a good sign showing that both sides were willing to really look past that and do what's right. So I don't know if it was the New Year's, somebody had a resolution that they committed to or what, but I just appreciate, I'll use Commissioner Paul Salvas' term of good faith negotiations. I appreciate the good faith negotiations that's been conducted, the hard work that's been done, so.
Nothing much to add. Thanks to you and Lisa, thanks to the county. I guess the one thing to think about in the future that we don't have to answer now is, I'm just curious about the obligation for getting a shovel in the ground. Is there a date that we've committed to, and what's the backward plan to finance then? Or if we don't have the funds, what does that look like? I don't think we have to solve that today. But now that we have such positive momentum, we get new problems we get to deal with. It's exciting.
Yeah, and I guess on that note, I think it would be helpful for us to go through some of the next steps in terms of the Milwaukie Center and some of the maintenance and what that looks like for our jurisdiction. And I don't know if that needs to be necessarily in a work session. I think it could be a conversation with Peter, or maybe, some check-ins or things along those lines. But I think knowing as we move forward through the IGA process, not just the timelines that we need to meet, but also the capacity that we are inheriting through this and what that will mean for our organization.
That is really good, Councilor Savage, and I think what will help, I know what will be helpful is during the budget process, the CIP, we're actually already including Milwaukie Community Center as a part of that. So you'll start seeing some numbers and some what's probably going to be needed near term and long term.
And I don't know if within the grants that you're referring to, there are options for capital improvements for the Milwaukie Community Center, but it might be helpful to look through that lens for available funds that are out there too, so that we can take into account the maintenance that needs to be done on that building.
Well, there's actually 3 grant sources, and
Okay.
there's actually federal grant source that I really didn't have on my radar.
Yeah.
We've always known that they're state and metro and that kind of thing. So Adam has done a good job of corralling, I think, all of the potential targets, but some of them are due in a fairly short order.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they will be an evaluation process, but the sooner that we can some of the solidify and we'll have success in that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, it's good that we still have our sleeves rolled up on this.
Yeah, not over with.
No, definitely not.
No relaxing.
Still a lot more work to do, for sure, but positive.
I know we've got on the 17th Parks and Green Space update, and maybe that's a good time when we could talk about maybe there's more like financial clarity going forward, maybe there's clarity around this, that we could revisit that.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Anything else, Vanessa? Good job, Robert. Okay.
Shocked.
Okay, so it is Q1, and that means we need to go over some of our annual metrics today, as well as go over what we did in Q4. We last met in October. We have all of October through December to review of what was done, both on the council and the staff side, and then do some coordination and prep for the future actions to come. So we're going to start with the metrics, go over those. About like a third of them will be an update. Another third of them will be getting your input on what was done to help me fill out those metrics on meetings convened, meetings attended. And then the final third will be stuff that we have to wait for the data to be fully available from to the 2025 year. So diving right in, the first metric is dollars invested directly into supporting our local businesses. The annual goal is $250,000. And in 2024, we exceeded that as well as in 2025. For 2025, we invested over $850,000. And that went towards 24 grants. About 11% of that went to support BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ businesses. And then any questions about that before I move on to go through each metric? That one's pretty simple. It really only includes the grants. It doesn't include, there's other things that could be included here, like bike racks and the support of the passport program, but this is one metric that we have available. That's open to including more things if we want. And then, I have to pause to see were there any questions on that? Okay. And advancement of the 5-year action plan. So in 2024 at the start, it was reported there was 29% of projects in progress or completed. And in 2025, by the end, there was 70% in progress. And I guess the trolley trail now could be something that's on this in progress list potentially, because that is a part of phase 3 of the Milwaukie Bay Park. So those items in red are the things that were identified as not being in progress yet at the time this list was created. But the rest are really through the grant program being implemented and through the CIP project. Outside of that, there's things like the Main Street enhancements and parking solutions that have been ongoing improvements, not only reserved for the CIP plan, but it's not likely that this will reach 100% completion, which is the goal by the end of the 3 years because of the CIP being pushed back, but we shall see.
And also, some of the projects on the list were not, we weren't in the driver's seat, so to speak, necessarily. They were conditioned to follow things like, so you see Dogwood Park there. Those improvements were supposed to happen as part of GoHo, that development going through. So we had put some money aside to help improve Dogwood Park when that occurred. Obviously, things are changing there. And to the trolley trail, we dogged those dollars because
Is that 29% that was complete or in progress? So we've just added a lot that's in progress. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I was using the same metric as that number before, but based on the percentage of these projects that are in progress, the 77%, but
That's awesome.
good. Yeah. And then what do we have here? The external business related meetings attended by city councilors. So this is one where I need your help and maybe we need to touch base again when their baby is back too. The goal is a minimum of 12, and I think that's throughout all 3 years, not annually. And so there were 5 in 2024. I never captured an equity focused number. I'm not sure if that number was 0 or I just missed it. But for this year, some examples are maybe meetings you attended of dams, of the chamber. I know the mayor attended a Swage Lock meeting. Were there any other external business related meetings attended this year, 2025?
Yeah, there were. I'm just trying to think of the ones that the mayor and I went to, so, Swage Lock and then Milwaukie, that's 2.
So I have a question about that, because do you feel like that would fall under business related meetings convened by the city/councilors?
Oh,
The ones
okay.
with Oregon Tool, that's a separate metric.
Okay.
we were kind of stuck between these two metrics because they're kind of very similar.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to figure out what's the
I would
difference.
somehow squish them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also take note of those ideas that you were just throwing out.
Counselor Kozarbati, you're at the
Yeah.
chamber meetings.
Yeah, I went to quite a few. I mean, they're once a month, but went to quite a few in 2025.
Should I say 6?
Oh, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Did you?
I have attended, I would say maybe 3 of the band meetings. That might be a conservative number, but I can't.
Didn't we meet with Jay too in 2025?
Okay.
That's the other metric, right?
Yeah, and I'm just counting those as the full body meetings, not necessarily individual meetings that I've had with members of that organization.
I think that makes sense. Okay, yeah. And then anything, even at the state level, I think any doesn't have to be local for this one.
I went to Oregon Business Summit.
Okay. Thank you. Else coming to mind?
Well, I think that we just all need to put in 2026 is to update you.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah,
So we're not trying to figure out.
That's good.
yeah.
Good. You can check on this metric quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
And then as far as meetings that we convene as either city staff or counselors for this ones, the notes were to be meetings, roundtables, or summits. I was counting the business intros, site visits, the business intros were into council to introduce the businesses, and then the site visits to businesses. And then we had the meeting with the chamber CEO, Councilor Kozarbati and staff. And I know you went to meet with all the grantees, right? At some point, I'm not sure if that's a number we want to count in here.
I can go, Counselor Stavanger and I did that. We can go back and I'll look at my calendar and add those all up.
Thank you.
I don't know if you had it on your list, but the mayor met with the key,
Mm. Okay, so Urban Pool and Marquee were the two?
MARQUE. And that's a, for those of you who don't know, that's a corporate headquarters here, run a lot of rehabilitation centers.
And the next metric is the total number of businesses registered with the city. This is one that we'll have to wait till February to get the final number as registration officially closes January 31st. So we'll get that soon. And the goal is an upward trend there. So hoping that's what we'll see. I know we've had quite a few new businesses. And then impressions of business friendliness. This is a metric that we're pulling from the survey. The goal is to have an upward trend. We do not have data for 2024 as I just sent out the survey in December. So that's going to be open for till the end of January, so another week after this. And I just pulled a tentative number based on the responses that we've seen so far and kind of came up with two different ways we could measure it. These numbers are based off of when we had 223 responses. The most recent I've seen is 255. I'll be sending another reminder next week, so hopefully we'll get a couple more. But the overall grade was 71%, which is passing, a passing grade. It's not an excellent grade, it's passing. And then the percent satisfied was 44%. So this part of the survey is a Likert scale of very satisfied to, or very dissatisfied to very satisfied of 6 different areas. So the ease of obtaining a business license, the clarity of building code, zoning, permitting requirements, responsiveness of city staff, the timeline for inspections and approvals, overall experience with city departments, and the city council's business support policies and direction. So when you look at the overall grade of how many possible points there are on here, if every single respondent gave us a very satisfied 5 points, compared to how many points we did get, that's where we get the 71% overall grade. But if you just look at how many of them answered somewhat satisfied or very satisfied, the average across all these 6 areas was 44%. So I think the metric does specify the percent satisfied. So that's what we want to go with. I just wonder if that doesn't quite capture improvement along the whole spectrum of people moving from very dissatisfied to somewhat dissatisfied is still kind of important.
I have a question. So I guess if you can clarify a little bit more. So does that mean that there's 56% of businesses unsatisfied with the city?
Not necessarily. That's the average across each of these. So I guess, I don't know if you can say it that way,
Yeah.
but
I guess it would be helpful to see the percentages for each, like how many
we
said
can.
dissatisfied, how many said satisfied, how many said very satisfied.
Mhm.
Because it's a little, because it's like 71% is our overall grade, but only 44% are satisfied. So it doesn't make sense. To me, it's hard to gauge what that's saying.
Okay, that's fair.
Can we look at the data as a stacked bar?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Then we can see each of those bars potentially move over.
Yes.
See or
Yeah.
see where we're
I think
maybe
that
falling
might
behind.
Yeah, okay.
And then on the previous slide, businesses opening, do we have the opposite of how many businesses closed in the year? Because that would be good to look at too.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I was just thinking the same thing, like, when you look at almost like 2 line graphs.
Yeah, how it does that or whatever.
How many do we have registered and
Yeah.
how many left the city? And I think that will be helpful for us to look at both of those. If we have a trend of businesses leaving the city or just dissolving
Right.
their business. I don't know if there's a way, is there an exit interview? If
There's
you,
an application you fill out when you close your business through the business registration, so. And is assuming that people.
does it ask, are you leaving Milwaukie or are you dissolving your business?
I don't know.
I think it does.
That's a good one.
That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
important data together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of just thoughts, random thoughts. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with them. But, if you look at the state as a whole, there's a lot of business sentiment that says the state is not business friendly. And so when I listen to your questions here, they really seem to be focused on Milwaukee. But I just kind of wonder if you're getting lead over from the state's, sort of, poor, view of businesses being not a particularly business-friendly state. Choose the answers or anything like that, but that's just something that comes to my mind. And the other thing is that, when you see numbers like that, and I think numbers can be complicated and can be misleading and all kinds of things. So I just want to make sure that we have the right metrics and we know what they mean. And so when I see that people are saying they're dissatisfied, I mean, how do you tease out what corrective actions you do to make that better? And so I don't know how you do that with just, if all you have is a Likert scale,
Yeah, there was an option to expand on your answers or any one that is particularly relevant for you after the Likert scale. So I'm hoping that qualitative data tells us something. Yeah, but that's a good question because what do we do with this information? And I'm sure that those who took the time to fill out this survey will want to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Tried to send it all to those businesses that were just registered. So we didn't want to keep it just to businesses, and it's quite possible. I shared it with a friend, and the friend also commented. We really did try to not allow leakage to happen with this survey, keep it really to businesses. I think Sierra has done a good job. I am actually really pleasantly surprised by the amount of actually responded so far. It's kind of amazing.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Is that about 25% or almost 30%
Exactly.
registered business?
Which is kind of amazing.
Yeah. It's the incentive.
I would say that's really
That's a good idea.
collaboration between staff and Jordan on how to tie this into business registration. I think I've been getting responses back. People being like, "This is great." It's good.
It's good feedback though. We're also trying to figure out what these metrics really look like, right? This is our first go at a lot of these, so it's really helpful.
We will need just a deep dive into the survey findings at some point. But this is just a really quick look.
I feel like one of the measures of business readiness for jurisdictions is really how seriously the city takes businesses and economic development at the top level of things. So the fact that we have identified this as a goal and that we're looking at, data and metrics to track our progress, and we have those checkpoints, I feel like that's a really good first step. But I think if I were to look at the responses for the businesses, I would wager that a lot of them are saying roll up your sleeves, get out here, help with more events, help with more awareness, boost the events that are going on around town, those types of things. So I think that we should be expecting a call to action from local businesses.
Yeah.
Sierra, you mentioned doing a deep dive on some of the numbers or seeing more detailed
Yeah.
feedback after. I'd love to program that in. I know it's on the forecaster, on our little January through March quarter goals. Finding time in the forecaster to do that would be great.
We'll make that happen. Okay, next metric, events and tourism. Again, minimum of 9 annually. And so I make note of the ones that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of all the events in Milwaukee. And that would be, what is that here by 8? Earth Day, Pride, Juneteenth, Milwaukee Fest, Umbrella Parade, Arbor Day, Winter Solstice, and Dia de los Muertos. So are there any other events that we supported or put on?
Porch Fest.
Yeah.
Because the Arts Committee is quite.
The Bing Cherry. Beginning of the new year.
I didn't know what the city's role was.
First Fridays.
So we try to think of ways obviously the ones that we put on ourselves, but also the ones that we support one way or the other, whether it's financial or these are all on track. So what you're saying is good.
Well, don't we support the farmer's market? Right? We support the farmer's market. Oh.
In which, those aren't.
When they're, I mean, it's an event that goes on in a limited time frame. It's a big event too, that draws a lot of people.
Fair, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I think if it's there, we should change our goal. That makes sense. So we're gonna get 9 annual.
Okay.
Yeah.
No?
Well, I wouldn't count each individual event. I would just say the farmer's market. Yeah, exactly. Count the season as one.
Yeah.
Not each individual.
Okay.
So then do we count like
That's cheating.
Dan events?
I was like, you're using these numbers.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are more and more events in tourism that are coming up.
Yeah.
Like the float, the little
Yeah.
float. The little float.
Oh, the little
How
plug.
about what the NDAs do? The concerts in the parks
Yeah.
and those things.
Yeah.
Those are all city-supported events.
Quite a bit.
Good job.
Basically.
Do we like?
We're actually gonna have to change the goal.
Yeah, this, I feel like within these, there should be some analysis. Like, do we support this event financially? Do we support it through information dissemination? And that doesn't mean like we did a Facebook post for it. That means
No,
are
yeah,
we
right,
paying
right.
for, like as a sponsor for, getting information out? And then are we physically there? Do we have a table like at the farmer's market? Do we have a role, a speaking role or a volunteer role or something along those
Logistical role,
Was that?
logistical role?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I feel like, otherwise it's just like, oh, did you go?
Yeah.
But we
Which
give
is a
grant-
measure.
Well, yeah, that's like doing the grants for like Celebrate Milwaukee. Like if
Yeah.
you counted those, that's kind of like, you don't want to count that because it's like,
Right.
that's just.
So then the question is, like for First Friday, that's an event that really needs, or as, it's a season that really needs support. And that what we're hearing from community partners is that there's not the capacity out in the community to have that continue to go. But I would imagine if we asked our community members, they love to see those events and want to see those continue. So then the logistical question for us is, can we support that in those 3 ways? Financially, information dissemination, or logistics?
Yeah.
And so this is not like, when I look at this, I'm not like just checking off events, like, hey, we were there, shook some hands,
Yeah.
shook some babies, kissed some hands, that.
You're looking for investment.
It's an investment, yeah. Did we actually make an effort for that event to be successful?
Yeah.
Is the goal there to increase our level of investment or increase the amount of events? And like, what's the ultimate that we're going towards here?
I would say and or, yeah.
And events are different than tourism, honestly. If the city has a tourism strategy, then that's different than just supporting events.
You're right.
That's helping to actually articulate the things that make Milwaukie unique and why people should
Tourist destination, yeah.
visit Milwaukie.
Yep. That's a good point. This is really good feedback.
There's some others like Noche Latina that we do in partnership with the school district, but the city has a table there. Or I think about like our cultural grants, the Ethiopian food event that happened at the Little Blue Store is another great example. But I think if we're getting down to this level, I kind of do think it's good to count each farmer's market as its own event or each First Friday as its own event, because you can see kind of blending it with tourism at this point. And so we just see the volume of events, and we can change whatever that goal is for the volume of events, but we're capturing like the number of things or number of activities that bring people into Milwaukie and trying to see the number of those expand. And a reoccurring event, I think, counts not just for that reoccurring event, but also each.
Okay.
So things that are coming up really rapidly, would be like the Milwaukie Lights Walk.
Yeah.
I don't know that there has been logistics support on some of the lighting, not all of the lighting. There's been placemaking grant support, so financially, but I don't know that cohesively everybody on council knows what the Milwaukie Lights Walk is, what the theme is, where you can go, what the dates are, so that we can articulate that when we're talking regionally about things that could bring people to downtown during like a very slow season for businesses. And from a tourism perspective, that would be really helpful. So we might look at, within that strategy, what are some of the things that we can boost when it's not a hot, exciting season for everybody to be downtown for the, like farmer's market has traffic, it's creating its own weather, like.
Seriously.
But if you walk downtown right now, it's cold, there's not a lot of people out, everything is kind of like,
Everything closes at 8.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost.
I mean, I think that would be,
Everything on this side.
I hate to say it, it's another thing to look at, but to compare the number of events that are happening in the summer versus the winter, like there's a different goal to adding another July event
Yeah.
versus.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Because foot traffic that we saw for Big in the New Year was incredible. Like downtown was packed. The walkable space between the Freem Keeper block and the Farmers Market block, amazing.
It's hard to find a place to eat.
It was incredible downtown. And then you go forward 2 weeks from that event, that one episodic event. And
Good point.
I think you then talk to businesses about how things are going right now, and it's a little terrifying.
Yeah.
So it's more important, this is my own opinion at this point. It's more important for us to add more events or activity or boost that strategy in a time where we have a big dip in foot traffic for businesses all across the city than it would be to add, like another July event that people are like, oh, damn, I'm doing 5 events this day. Maybe I can make it by, for this extra pie eating contest or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. So I think for to help with this, what I'm hearing is as far as the 3, can you restate the 3?
Maybe. So financial investment, information dissemination, and logistical support.
And that logistical would probably capture like if you had a speaking role, right?
Yep. And staffing.
Yeah, if we have to use like.
Either
staff
council
time.
staffing or if the city has staff there. I think logistical support could be like bare minimum, are we lending the trailer, for tables and tents and things like that? And then higher level would be, are we actually like picking up all the trash after Big in the New Year?
That's great.
Like basically servicing the event.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Point up this-
Are we volunteering?
Yeah.
I like all these great ideas, but I also want to say that it's good work.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that Joseph and probably Emma have tired of me talking about is that we don't spend enough time. And so this is not perfect. We want to make it better, but we've done some good work, and I just want to get it out there. The good things that we've been done. And, you don't want to give them a spreadsheet, but you want to give them some facts and figures about what we supported and that kind of thing. And be tidied up and put on the website, put it in the pile like that, because it's not enough just to do your job. You got to do your job and then tell people you're doing your job.
I appreciate that. We need that reminder. And I know from a staff side, speaking on many of our staff members, we get into this, great, we do the thing, check it off, what's next, and then you forget about the strategy or the storytelling. So I appreciate that. And I think this is what we're trying to do with the metrics, is like eventually get to really good storytelling. But helping define the goals right now is really helpful because it's going to help tell a bigger story. We're talking about even a bigger story in events and tourism, and then also being potentially strategic about when those events need to happen to support the business community.
Yeah, we just started playing three-dimensional chess. How do you feel? Well, like, you know, you're looking at just tracking events, and then we just threw all these different, you know, angles at you. But I think that could be a collaborative conversation with businesses or business groups. You know, as we're having those meetings or convening those conversations, asking things like in the survey, you know, we ask, are there particular times of the year where you are not seeing foot traffic, or you're not seeing, you know, are there lulls? And so I think we take that information from the survey and then look at that in terms of the events that we're supporting throughout the year, and really kind of like, you know, cross that.
We'll definitely do on the next quarter's report back. Take this, chew on it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
We can help you chew.
Chew on it on Mondays.
Okay.
Do we have a tourism strategy? Is that something that is needed to be added to next year's report or something? Is that
If I could make a proposal, so we meet, Sarah and I meet every Monday, every other Monday. I should know, but it feels like just a big hug. So maybe what we could do is take some of the feedback from this conversation, and over the next couple of meetings, you know, like come up with something that feels like it's respectful of the staff capacity and could be layered in with what the city might be already doing, and then present that for your discussion on the tourism specific question. Because I think it could be something simple like, here are some things we already do. Let's just brand them, you know, slightly differently. It also could be, hey, we're coming into a budget period and we think this tourism strategy needs an investment of $20,000 a year. Those are two different conversations, but they should be conversations that the council has as a whole. And as we're coming into budget, I feel like it's timely to at least like analyze those paths.
I love the budget ask idea, and I also love the idea of getting more of the story around what we are doing is tourism and creating a brand image. And Milwaukee has a brand image right now. To get it more solidified and like get it out there is the place where we are definitely lacking. Heads.
Yeah, and there's similarity of some of the things that are happening downtown, like there's at least two, I think, lino cut events that are happening in the next month that are not at the same places downtown, but I just saw posts for those. And I think that there is a story to be told about like a very DIY, very artsy thread that's running through the city, and how that has translated into, you know, what Milwaukee looks like and how we are who we are.
I think this also play a role in our communication strategy. I'm meeting with our communications manager later this month to kind of go over 2026 and what's going to look like communications, and I feel like this is
Sweet.
I noticed the time and we don't have a
we're
lot.
on metrics still. Yeah.
Way to go.
Doing great, Sarah.
Okay, downtown foot traffic, this number is coming. It was 5,400 average daily visitors in 2024. We'll get this next month. Let's see if that one upward trend is the goal. Sorry, I'm trying to go through these quickly. But do stop me if you have. Okay, access to commercial activity and hubs. We have been working on this one. We got a number that was the percent of units within a quarter mile of a neighborhood hub. And that was an existing shapefile. We're working on another request, which is the percent of units within a quarter mile of a commercial property. So we're gonna get both those numbers for the 2025. I've been working on getting that second one. So this is a centroid point at the center of each commercial property in Milwaukie, and that is the purple is the quarter mile walk shed around those. And so we'll layer that over housing units. I'm getting updated housing units from planning to see if there was any additional middle housing on these single family properties to make sure that's most up to date. We want to see an upward trend there. And then Q4 accomplishments.
Thanks, Sierra, and I know you've been working with Nick Linda Cool on some of the GIS side of things and planning, but good job on, this didn't line up because we're in January and some of the data doesn't come until right now. So sorry, there's some highlights, but we'll get all that to you.
Awesome.
Bookmarking it all.
And then Q4, are we done at 5 for this item?
You're good.
We've got a bit of time because we did the parks update already.
Q4 accomplishments. The CIP scope was on the Q4 to do. The draft charter is complete. It sounds like you're getting a substantial update next month, as well as just ongoing quarterly updates. And you have heard that the timeline was moved back to maybe 2028 construction schedule. And the CET grant program was launched in Q4. We talked about this quite a bit, but this is available to commercial hubs and along commercial corridors. It launched in October. We have given out about $37,000 so far in that program to 4 different grantees: Stein Funeral Homes, Two Sisters Cafe, Chapel Theater, and Little Blue Store. And there's one in the pipeline, which is another Little Blue Store grant. That's a just a picture of what they're planning. They're going to have a food truck in the back there and a little bit of an outdoor seating court, and adding outdoor seating in the front as well. And I'm sure a lot of other things are going to come because they're having a consultant work with them on kind of interior design and other elements that will play out in their grant.
Ames food truck is moving to the grocery store. Yeah, that's the food truck.
Okay, cool. I'm glad they found those. Yeah. And then in Q4, we issued 15 grants, and I can't see what the numbers are right now, but $613,000. And I wanted to just show you a couple of the consulting grants that we did, that we had this year in that quarter. I want to look at these are their full packets. Sorry, I didn't get it all. But that's wellness and Casa de Tamales, just a few imagery pieces of their suggestions for how they can update elements of their space. The packet is full of suggestions that I think are actually really fantastic, but so they wanted to warm up the El Rock wellness space as this main entry point for them. And then for Casa de Tamales, one of the things was, cleaning up the walls and the ceiling, or removing some distractions and having a center point of a mural on the back, doing some tiling at a bar that you can actually sit at, and being very intentional with the lighting in the space, among a lot of other suggestions there. And yeah, they're doing, I really like the work that this consultant has been doing. These are our first 2 consulting grants, and Little Blue Store should be ready next week.
Yeah, product is cool. It's come out pretty good.
In Q4, we also were tasked with kicking off the 5-year action plan update. So we had the MERCAG meeting in November, at the end of November, to get their initial input and what they would like to see out of the next engagement plan for the 5-year action plan, how they want engagement to go, if they remembered anything of what went well last time and what to include this time. And their overarching feedback was just having direct engagement with folks, be there in person, have continuous engagement, don't just drop in and zoom out, continue to pursue those stakeholders and have it be extremely inclusive. So they called out meeting with community service providers, BIPOC businesses, persons with disabilities, having a lot of language inclusion and all users, multimodal users. And so I'm leveraging our community engagement guide that our community engagement coordinator put together to try and incorporate that into an inclusive engagement process. And we're going to meet in February to go over that with MRCAC again. And we'll probably come to MRC at some point to get your input as well on what you'd like to see out of that engagement process. The RHD, residential high density study, that I don't think council's heard about that quite yet. That's going to be an update you'll get soon from the planning side, but we have a DLCP grant and we're contracting with Echo Northwest to evaluate the effectiveness of the RHD zoning. And that's going to kick off in February. They're still working out the details of the scope, however, but this is going to be what our kind of market study was intended to be for the neighborhood hubs, neighborhood corridors. The corridor will include a lot of our neighborhood hubs as well. So this will inform some people on the hubs and corridors. We did a little bit of construction impacts consulting in the last quarter, providing contacts as well as writing emails to businesses about the impacted businesses that are within like a 500-foot buffer of the Monroe Greenway and the King Road construction, and also letting them know about the open house opportunities that may or may not be an ongoing role that economic development plays, just depending on how the needs play out for those construction timelines. And the business survey, we talked about this already quite a bit. It's going to close January 31st. And it will inform 3 pieces: the business friendliness score, which we already saw, and the business tax code update. There's a whole section asking about what that should look like, and then the 5-year action plan as well, because we can break this survey down by where those businesses are who responded. So we can look at it by the downtown and central Milwaukee businesses to get some insights there. And up next, we are going to do that deep dive on the 2025 business survey. You'll see the draft engagement plan, the RHD analysis. You'll have a further update on that. Business tax code update, that we will have the survey back. We will have internal meetings next quarter and start to really get into drafting changes. And then Harrison and Maine, we are tasked with revisiting that discussion this quarter. Not sure if that's on the forecast yet. And then Stavanger, you brought up revisiting the Metro Reuse Center discussion. So we're going to look at that. And then data updates and development timeline updates. These are requests we've gotten from council. And we started with this last community development update, just kind of having a few more robust updates in there about Dan's meetings and what they have planned. And so you can check out that. And we're going to also be incorporating some more robust development updates to kind of meet that need there. That works.
So to see what Sierra's speaking to, look in your work session packet. And it's the CD/CIP/housing/economic development report that we're doing right now. And thanks for adding those updates from Dan's last meeting.
Yes. And then looking forward further into Q2, the things that we have, this was on our Q2 list, which is present transportation enhancements needed to support workforce and business needs as informed by the TSP. Not sure if it still makes sense to have that coming up in Q2 yet, or if that's still a relevant task at this time. This is one of them. And then that's when the full proposal of the updates to the city's tax code will be coming to you. And then engagement on the TIF 5-year action plan will probably be kicking off around that time, spring of this year. And another request that we discussed with Councilor Stavanger is maybe exploring an office hours with the economic development coordinator model or a related resource such as an FAQ page. We also do have office hours with the Metro Innovation Hub coming up next month. So we'll see if maybe there's a lot of demand for that, if we can continue leveraging the Metro Region Innovation Hub as the office hours person, maybe quarterly. But anyways, that's something to be explored. now Q4 through council accomplishments.
One question with the work plan. I saw one thing that got dropped from the October one in Q2 is proposed placemaking investments for priority hubs. But that's still, in Q3, we still have implement placemaking investments in priority hubs. Are we going to talk about scoping at all for those investments in this quarter or next quarter?
No, I think I just need to remove that Q3 one because it's going to be contingent upon findings from the RHD analysis. And also kind of letting the grant program run through and let's see what happens there before kind of having that discussion. But that's kind of what I was thinking, but it's obviously up for discussion if you wanted to.
Do we need to, I guess I don't know if there is a right answer to this. Do we need to have a market analysis to know, to inform what placemaking investments that we're doing? Those seem like they could be related, but I could also see them being not necessarily related. I don't know if we need a market analysis to know that the little blue store with lots of benches around them or something cute in their neighborhood that shows that this is a little hub.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think ultimately, a market analysis around the hubs will help inform what the market directly around those hubs can support, and that'll help hopefully property owners and developers in a sense. But as far as doing investments in placemaking, that can look a number of different ways, from benches to events to all kinds of things. So I think you're right. We don't necessarily need to wait for market analysis to do some placemaking.
We also have our last market analysis of our hubs that we already did that talks about placemaking and other things there. And maybe we use that to help inform.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's a good point. It gives some direction. That in itself is also, in my opinion, it's needed some more rigorous analysis.
No.
Sure.
Well, the placemaking can be done in this moment with the placemaking grants, of course, in the hubs, but if we wanted to do a more intentional approach to selecting where we want those to go, that's kind of what that would.
I guess this is also to Councilor Massey's point. We're not changing necessarily what priority hubs we've already selected. So I think as long as we move forward with the understanding of the existing market analysis that we have, the existing decisions we've made around priority hubs, that might be sufficient to inform the placemaking decisions that we do, but other ideas too. Regardless, do we plan to build that into the budget or?
Could. I think it's, I think part of it is also with a potential corridor plan, it's kind of doing a lot in the same area over and over again. Or should we do it all kind of in a comprehensive way? I think that's kind of where staff is a little bit. For placemaking, we have grants out there that we're hoping like the community takes, hold on and maybe pursue some kind of investment with those dollars in their own area that they, around the hubs or otherwise. But we have also said we can use those dollars to do our own thing on like city-driven placemaking, right? And that can be part of more analysis around the hubs. That can be part of the RHD kind of analysis that's occurring. Again, that can and probably should be part of the corridor conversation as well. So like we have these other policy-driven conversations that we're going to have around this. So it's a little bit of how much they're all going to start bleeding into each other. And so how do we kind of all put them together and do the best job with the resources that we have. So we've been saying, come on community, hopefully they pick up some of that. And then we'll get to the RHD and we'll get to the corridor studies and the market analysis involved in the whole world. And we'll have a little bit more sense of what makes sense there from investment opportunities on the city side.
Okay, that makes sense. I think I'm just thinking through the tension of like, okay, when have we overanalyzed ourselves to death and
We do that.
then dragging our feet on some of these things that I think a lot of people have wanted to see. But also, I think it does make sense. There's a process we're laying out. So I take your advice on when it's best to do this, but I do feel like it's smart to think about, what things, to ask the question at least, what can we do now? What can we put forward to our community to see things start to happen? Because there are some hubs, the Little Blue Store is a great example, that kind of are rolling on their own, and are there supports that we can do right now that help support those?
Yeah, we're putting a lot of investment, a little bit of storage because we have a property underneath.
Yeah.
That really helps, that changes everything. We haven't really figured out how to do speaking side of things in a way that, we haven't really just talked to you all actually about what that could look like and should look like with dollars. Maybe that's the discussion you're actually asking about.
Maybe, I don't know what I'm asking.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of the conversation.
I love placemaking conversations.
Mhm.
Maybe a little too much.
Rebecca gave me a great book about placemaking.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I think that there are some things that can be, you can have a whole scaled strategy around placemaking. But it's important that it's intentional, it's important that it's community informed, and that it's consistent. And so I think having that discussion around the hubs and the areas of economic development we have identified geographically, I think that's important. But maybe we can look at like the CIP and identify other areas where we can take out, like where do the ripples go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you had mentioned that too before, like layer this with CIP projects as well.
And maybe then it is just more of a framed around the budget conversation. What's happening in our CIP, we proactively set aside to support in year 2 of the budget, placemaking around hubs.
That makes a lot of sense. I know there's just there's also like a desire to see things happen, right? So we haven't really figured out what something should be. We have priority counts, but we like Councilor Stavenjord said, you can have placemaking be a number of different things. You can make art contests for PG&E on like the electrical boxes and potentially painting those. That could be a thing. It can go really big fast and it can be really small but impactful. So there's a lot of those things.
And maybe it is that conversation that we had before. It doesn't have to be large investments, but are there small scale placemaking things that we want to encourage in our hubs that we can think about this year that don't you don't need a market analysis to know that we're going to paint our electric box a pretty color. And are there small things like that that we can encourage in this year before we have that market analysis back?
I'll write this down. We'll talk about it as staff and try to, I think that's fair, makes sense.
There are some best practices, yes, and a lot of resources that talk about things that other jurisdictions have done and have seen, good feedback from. So I think we could look at what some of those strategies are and what the cost applied to that strategy. So for example, the electrical boxes, I forget which city in Seattle, or like the Seattle area I was in, but they have wraps around their electrical boxes and it's gorgeous.
It changes
Just gorgeous.
the whole.
So we could have like that actionable strategy is we have a conversation with PGE about, an IGA.
Yeah.
And what is the cost of doing wraps on those boxes? What's the cost of ongoing maintenance? How do we roll that out? So you could talk through that strategy. It might be that that's a low cost thing that just takes time. You have to find a vendor that, could do the wrap, and we could do electrical boxes across the whole city. That would increase a sense of community and a sense of feeling, like connected geographically.
I know you're always asking for things to put on Engage, and this to me seems like the type of asking for placemaking ideas or that community involvement that Councilor Stavenford is talking about. Like, what does it look like to do some community generated ideas? What does it look like? Okay, what's scalable? What could we do with what's outside the purview? And even if it's, I don't know, you can do cute things. I love how invested the folks at the Little Blue Store are. What does it look like to sit around a neighborhood and have a little potluck and talk about, okay, what do we want to do in this neighborhood?
So I'm going to push on you a little bit because sometimes we survey community to get answers that we have already been told. And I think that this might be one of those situations where
Yeah.
there are some things that are already known and perhaps that sit around and have a potluck and talk about things could be actually like taking a menu of options to community personally and
Yeah.
saying, you know, we have already done the cost estimate on creative trash cans, you know, street planters, you know, picnic benches or extra benches,
Yeah.
neighborhood flags, you know, all of those types of things, you know, wrapping the electrical boxes and then gauge interest on which of those people would like to see done first, rather than just kind of casting the net widely that might come back with some of the same answers that you can find in a best practice search.
I also realized I stepped in the same foible. A lot of these are detailed in the last HUBs analysis, so we can go back and pull those up. I think that's super smart.
We could-
Yeah.
But I guess, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want to beat this to death, but yeah.
I was just gonna, just to wrap that one up, I think what I'm hearing is back to the council to have a discussion about what the ones that we think are like probably the most interesting. And use those, however many you generate, to go out to engage, to get discussion going and get feedback from the.
So how about this? I am willing to volunteer to put together some materials, perhaps in partnership. We could do it on Mondays, that the council could discuss. And this might be, I'm just publicly putting it out, this might be more than 1 hour ask if we were to vet specific strategies for costs within the city. So I want to ask council's permission for more than 1 hour of staff time. Do you remember how we used to have to do this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
very
don't know that the council gives that permission.
Well,
No, I appreciate the transparency.
it's kind of it's part of our operating
I agree.
agreement
I agree.
together. I would like to say that the request that I may have for staff to vet the strategies that I will come up with at a local level, to say, take the extra level and talk to, you know, someone in Public Works. I won't, but I may give it to Sierra.
think we
And
can-
Sierra could talk with somebody in Public Works to say, how expensive would it be to wrap all the electrical boxes in the city?
If we're talking ballparks, we can get ballparks pretty fast.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So that's the level that I want to, that's the level of analysis that I would like to do to bring strategies back to council.
To talk 30,000 foot, I'm hearing we had already talked about 2 sets of placemaking grants. It sounds like we're honing in on that vision. This year's placemaking grants are small scale, we're figuring it out, Councilor Stafford will help scope that. Next year is, okay, larger, more like informed by the market analysis. What's happening with placemaking?
Yeah,
Is that the right framing?
I think so, and I would say, I think right now we're trying to get it to be community driven just because of capacity and what we're working on with the grants.
Yeah.
So I think the push is to hopefully get folks to really speaking themselves in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the future, yes, we're talking about what Councilor Stavanger is in any to those types of areas. For sure. That's a year later.
So we need a playbook.
Yeah.
We need the placemaking playbook.
And the tourism plan. Okay,
Look at us, creating heartburn for city staff.
I'm hearing just people need to leverage. You need to leverage in order to make these things not.
we derailed council accomplishments.
Oh, yes. Please tell me what else to add to this list, because I want it to be captured and memorialized. So I added a couple things on your behalf. Swage lock meeting and letters to businesses, which Mayor and Councilor Massey were working on, passport sponsorship, and then MERCAC 5-year action plan are the things that was kicked off. So those are the things I captured for council accomplishments related to economic development in Q4. Is there anything else that I can add?
Well, council made a decision about some of the business grant investments. And I think that actually demonstrates an involvement and awareness of that grant program that, it's a work in progress, but that's a touch point that council had.
I think you could, if you're looking for more checks to add, you just do regular correspondence with businesses. Like, I don't think we need a checkbox every month for Councilor Chris Rabati going to the chamber events, but reflecting those correspondence.
Thank you. And then looking forward for council actions, we have this quarter is to convene the first round of business roundtables. And this was supposed to be timed for after the survey results came in. So those results will be in February. And then Stavanger, we talked about maybe you sharing an eyes on the street update of downtown business activity, which we can do that maybe the next quarter, or you can do it today, whichever. I do think there might need to be some coordination around the business roundtable piece today, if that's still happening this quarter, or does it need to be strategically?
Talk about the roundtables. They're planned for the first quarter this year, is that what you said?
Yeah, it was actually planned for last quarter, but we pushed it to this quarter to time after the business surveys. So like, see if that can
Yeah, I
inform.
don't want to push it another quarter.
You do?
No, I don't.
You don't, okay.
I don't want to just keep kicking it, you know what I mean?
Well, this is upon us. And I guess my question is, this is a pretty broad category. Convene first round of business roundtables. Well, what businesses, how many, the date, who's leading it, who's facilitating the agenda and the discussion. There's a lot of detail in that. And so I'm not against us doing it in the first quarter, but this is here. So I've asked this question. I said, I'm not sure I understand what we're trying to accomplish out of a business roundtable. I mean, there's lots of things you might accomplish, but I don't know what we're trying to accomplish.
I mean, since we just did the survey, I would think that it would be kind of preempted on that, right? Based on some of those responses. And because like you said, we asked like, okay, well, how do we fix what they're dissatisfied about? Well, the survey is not going to tell us that. A roundtable potentially could. So maybe we take the information that's off the surveys
That's a start.
and reach to those businesses. Like maybe we have our first meeting with everybody that was satisfied and below. Say, hey, let's meet with them. And then we have another roundtable later with the ones who are satisfied and above or a little bit higher, and just kind of see what the spectrum looks like on each side, right? Like, where's the opposites? Where's the common space? And then how do we make sure that both sides are able to take advantage?
I think that was the intent of the survey, is to get something that had a little bit more meat on it to talk to businesses about. Just from like conversations that I've had in the last week on Main Street, there's a lot of excitement about the open hour, the open office hour, or the meeting with the Metro Regional Innovation Grant, or not grants, the hub. I think, I've talked to 4 businesses that are like, oh yeah, I saw that, I'm gonna go. So I really hope that maybe we could do something informal like that, where we, post up at Windhorse or Keeper or something that says, hey, come and talk with us about the survey findings. Were you dissatisfied?
So it's not something that you're not expecting like an extensive planning for that? Or-
So business roundtables could be something that, is very grand. Or it could just be, you filled out this survey. It looks like some of you are dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Let's get together and talk about what that looks like and how we can do better. And I would prefer the latter, honestly. I feel like it's a better fit than, paying for a luncheon and all. We can pay for coffee, or we can pay for, snacks or something. to get people to just, like, all you really have is 15, 20 minutes that you can step away from operations. You know,
So do you think we should do it this quarter? Or, because I also see when you brought up, it depends on the detail, because I can see us needing a quarter to prepare.
I like what Rebecca's saying. I'm just saying, I don't think we had any of the department. So I defer to you.
Right.
well, I think that that's why we wanted the survey to go out first. I mean, we pushed this saying, hey, we do need to have the where, what, when, why. And here's a good way for us to get some of that information from our businesses.
Right.
We're seeing about a third of them have responded. Hopefully with this next push, there will be more that respond. And I think that is something tangible to take back and say, all right, now we're gonna have, you know, over the course of the next month, we're gonna be at these 3 or 4 places. And you can stop in however much time you have. We want to go through some of the feedback that we got from this survey and hear from you specifically how you think we can do a better job.
Yeah. Even do
That's
it
how I do it.
in March.
I kind of love that idea. Just logistically, keeping it that simple. And it makes it so you can all figure out what makes sense for your schedules. And it's also very thoughtful for the businesses themselves. Having roundtables in the evening or in the morning can
Yes, I can work.
be another thing to do or take away from this operation from.
Or their family.
And
Or you offer multiple dates and times.
That's what we should
Do
do.
one on the weekend, do one during the work day, do one in the
And just
evening
hold it in a
on the
different,
weekday.
like hold one in the industrial area, hold one downtown,
Yeah.
hold one in, off of, what is it? International, right, you know?
Maybe we do 5 different options and each of us signs up for one shift.
We do that too.
That was the intent of getting the business survey out and getting some feedback. And then so we can give you all a chance to address whatever comes out. Or at least.
Oh, Rebecca, hold the first one so I can go to hers. And learn from her.
Well, and I mean, and there's no pressure to do this, but we all have a council budget. And so like using our council budget to pay for coffee and, you know, some kind of refreshments, like that might be the only time they get a chance to refuel.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Do you want me to do the first one?
Yeah, actually, I'm serious.
Okay.
Does it sound like you know what you're doing?
My follow-up is, how would you like the survey results sent to you as like a PDF report mid-month? Fine, or would you rather have a presentation at some upcoming?
I think we had talked about a larger presentation later, but if we're doing this soon, having a PDF sent out, we can do that.
Yeah. I'd like a spreadsheet with raw data. Thank you. Yes, I do.
If you wish. Okay. Do you have any eyes on the street updates about downtown business activity?
Eyes on the street. Pew, pew. Funny you should mention that.
Let's damage it.
It's a topic for another time. Okay, so a couple things that I wanted to highlight. There were some amazing winter events that happened and so much activity downtown. The umbrella parade, ridiculously huge. Big in the new year, amazing. The solstice events, holy moly. People were everywhere. And what I noticed is that there were people from not just Milwaukie that were here. This was something that was on their calendar. They were making a point to come to Milwaukie. And I think it's because it's very accessible. It's very community-centered, the events that we do, and they're family-friendly, which is a big draw. So I loved that. The passport program. So a couple of counselors sponsored the first round of printing for the Milwaukie passport. And man, those things were like hotcakes. So if anyone needs a passport, there were more of them dropped off. I am going to distribute them to other businesses downtown. And the passport is, have you all seen this? Okay. I mean, the first print job was like, what, 2,500? Something like that? And they were like gone. So there's another print that is in the works. I have made the request to Joseph and Sierra that we contribute, like we as the city contribute as a printing sponsor to another run of these, with the caveat that City Hall and the library be included in the walking map, because we have so many activities that the city is involved in and the library is involved in. I think that should definitely be on the map. So I've made that request, and I think that the plan is to do another big run of them in the spring, summer. But I mean, the only thing that I can think of, and I haven't talked with other businesses about how the incentives are going, but like from our side, it's quite an investment of freebies that that are going out. And so might be one of the things that comes up in the business roundtable, or that we ask about in the roundtable is, if you were a business that was featured in the passport, how is that experience going for you? Are you finding that the freebies or the giveaways are draining your resources? And what does that look like? So that part is wonderful. I have been thinking a lot about, I think it was maybe one of our, I don't know if it was one presentation that you did. I can't remember which table we were at. But I remember you saying that we are not back to pre-pandemic levels of activity on the streets. And that hit like a punch to the gut. Because that means so much to the success of the hubs, of the businesses all around the city and for downtown. So that's been on the back of my mind, and really trying to take some of the one-time or seasonal sort of activities and spread that excitement out across the whole year. And what is the city's role in helping to make that happen? So those are my man on the street interviews for this quarter. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. One more thing. There are some things that we may not even think about that affect businesses. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'm going to just highlight a couple of things. The right over here, the building that has K. Marie and Windhorse and Charles, the tamale, sorry. Yeah. So they have been going through the process of getting their roof repaired. Just a new roof. But they found asbestos, and so there's a remediation process. So that means that the businesses on that little strip have been closed now for
Almost a week now, right?
Yeah, it's been a big, so I just saw today that there's a GoFundMe that has gone out from Windhorse, and I know that K. Marie has a GoFundMe that I don't know who is listening tonight, but this is it's a really rough period of time in the calendar to have an additional closure, and that means a lot to small businesses and their bottom line. So I just want to highlight that for council, and if you are inclined to go and support them either when they open back up and or through the GoFundMes, those are out there.
Will you send us that link?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it okay to post that link when we post the YouTube video for this meeting? Is it okay to post that link there, or is that unethical?
Interesting question.
At the very least, one of us could comment that link on the
So-
YouTube
Yeah.
video.
Well, can't you
The
post it on
individual
your personal?
business owners are funding the replacement of their roof.
No, No, but the GoFundMe covers things like lost income and
Okay.
ability to keep staff.
Got it.
Yeah,
There's no revenue right now.
yeah. So they've lost, a week of
We need a
income,
rainy day fund for business.
basically, at one of the worst times of the year.
Should really think about a rainy day fund for businesses for things like this. Using our business registration fee money.
Yeah.
That could
So
come
the
through
city
the
of
building. It
Portland
could-
and Multnomah County have done something like that for vandalism too.
Yep.
They did a small grants program and have a fund that is set aside with the city and the county, so that if businesses are vandalized or like with the Collectors Mall, they had a break-in and Christine had to replace the whole front door. And that was like $800 that is out of her pocket. So having something like that businesses could access, I think might be a really good step.
It might be why there's
And there's a model.
dissatisfied.
Yeah.
We'll get into this. I think this discussion is great, especially for the business registration code updates and what we want
Yes.
to do to make those funds more meaningful to businesses. That's a perfect kind of appetizer to the next discussion.
It's on the street.
Yeah.
Right, last thing with this dev update.
Yeah, I actually just have one thing. Because we brought up DAM, and I don't know when it was the last time we had I think we need a new update from DAM. I'm curious about how the relationship is with DAM, and maybe you can shed some light on that. Just because, not to look in the past, but I do know with that, because I did approach Jay Jones about that press release, just so you guys know. And he was a little bit taken aback by it in terms of how it got released without being reviewed first, because there were some inaccuracies. But when I went back to look at it, the letter was from Mr. Fisher, but when the chamber sent out that email, they said the letter was from their friends over at DAM. That letter went out to a bunch of people. If you look at the CC, who was CC'd on that, I mean, there's people, elected officials who aren't even in office that got that thing, right? So I just want to know is there an issue with DAM as a whole, or is it just an individual on DAM that had an issue? Because I think, for the most part, we've had a very good relationship with DAM, and we've been very supportive of DAM, council-wise, city-wise. So I just want to make sure we're not blurring the lines here and creating distrust between two entities that have historically been pretty healthy.
Yeah, a check-in with Dan.
I think that's a fair question. I know that they have been putting together their annual report. And I believe that they have intentions to bring that to council as a presentation. And so maybe the request when that gets scheduled would be that is with as many of their members as possible, that can make it for the meeting. And then we have more of a robust discussion, as jurisdictional body to advocacy body.
Yeah, because I would hope if it was the DAM as a whole, that they would have done a little bit more due diligence before putting something out like that.
Well, and there's also Sierra attends all of the meetings. I try to attend as many as I can.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
And I know that there's been, over the last month or so, there's been several additional meetings with leadership to discuss specific logistical supports from the city. And, what their strategic plan looks like for the next year and where it might align with the cities.
Right.
So I think those things are lining up for some of our conversations about our plans, strategies around ECDev, investments, all of that kind of stuff. But I think you are wise to say that, if we are supporting an organization, that it makes sense to have regular conversation with the leadership of that organization, maybe the membership of that organization. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Other last ECDev things?
Great work, Counselor.
Oh, man, it's not me.
Well, I mean, staff, but as the lane leader,
In Milwaukie.
you're doing a great job leading this lane, this goal. So thank you. Thank you for your work, because you're also running the business. Oh my God, it's like you're running too.
I just feel like it's always running.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Always running.
kids will do the same thing.
Sierra has one last thing for us, and then we're going to move to council reports.
The next Q2 is Plan Annual Business Summit. So just have that on your radars. I guess
Yeah.
there's no time to get into
It's
that.
very open too.
And do you want to skip this? About?
Yeah, let's skip this one.
Okay.
I feel like time. It's good conversation. I feel like we kind of got some of that with the metrics numbers.
We've got 20 minutes left. We could do council reports. At the very least, Scott has a presentation for us about ledge updates and boards and committees. We could hear that, see where we get to on reports. Okay.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Let's do it.
Or long dinner. I think let's take a, early night.
Just right out there.
Coming from our acting city manager, guys.
And we all know there's like a 20% chance.
Where's your
that it's
dedication?
waffles. So we've got to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Good luck.
See ya.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you for fitting me in on the work session. So I've got a couple of quick updates, they're sort of annual updates at this point, so I want to make sure we get an opportunity to present them to council and then take feedback. So it's time for our annual board and committee recruitment. This is the 5th year in a row we've done the annual recruitment. I think we're finally getting into a groove where it makes sense. And the last 2 or 3 years, we have used our alternates list. So it's been extremely helpful to have that. Makes filling our board and committee vacancies much quicker. Just a quick snapshot. We have 15 standing boards and committees now, which is sort of an all-time high in recent years, but the additions in the last year are welcoming the Climate Action Committee, which is official and launching with a full slate of members as of January 1st. And then just at the last meeting, council created the naming review subcommittee to work on when assets and parks and things like that are proposed to have names attached to them. That's not a committee that will be involved in this annual recruitment because the membership of that committee was designated by council in the policy to be members from other committees. So indirectly, it's there, but now it's one of our 15 standing. This year, at the end of June, we have about 46 of our, now probably around 100 positions with these new committees. We probably have about 100. We've been averaging about 88 with the new committee, and what we're probably pushing about 100 volunteers serving on our boards and committees. And this year, as of the end of June, we have 46-ish positions. And I say ish because as our staff liaisons know, and I can tell council, we are still working. Nicole, deputy recorder, is working on confirming who sitting on our committees now with terms expiring at the end of June wants to be reappointed. That's a question that we always ask of them, and it's been council's standing policy that if somebody's on a board and committee and is in good standing and wants to be reappointed, then they just get put on a resolution for reappointment. So we're still working to ask that question. It is, to be fair, we're still talking about terms that end in mostly 5.5, 6 months from now, and so folks knowing what they want to do in 5.5, 6 months is kind of an open question. So we're still working to confirm that, but we have up to 46 positions to fill or reappoint. And right now we have currently 2 vacancies, which is pretty good when you consider we have almost 100 volunteers. Any questions about those numbers? We'll get, by the time we do interviews, we'll know exactly what positions we need. So real quickly, here's the timeline. It's pretty much the same as before. Caveat, it's about a month earlier than usual. February 1st, in a couple of weeks, we'll launch our open the applications. We'll do the usual social media pilot article, postcard. The postcard we send to all mailboxes across the city, we really see a serious bump out of that. So we're planning on doing that again. That'll open February 1st. The deadline to apply is March 15th. That is half a month. That's about 2 weeks earlier than normal. And the reason is Mayor Beatty, seeing that council will be pretty swamped come April, especially in the May budget committee meetings every weekend and meetings around that, wanted to get the interviews done before the budget committee process started. So we're going to front load your calendars in April before your budget process loads up your calendar. And so the mayor asked for these dates, 8th, 11th, 15th, and 18th of April to be designated as interview times. last year, even without budget meetings in a way, it was quite a messy process for Nicole to figure out all the dates. You got to figure out the council and staff liaisons dates. You got to figure out room availability. You got to figure out the availability of interviewees. We thought, and the mayor actually requested that we just designate those times. So this doesn't mean all members of council and all staff liaisons have to be at all those windows. In fact, we're already starting to get feedback from staff liaisons and some council members as to who can't be there and whatnot. So on which days. So we're working on that, but at least this part of the moving puzzle will be nailed down. So March 15th, I'll say it again, it's a 2-week earlier deadline. March 15th, applications for all boards and committees will be due March 15th, turn it off March 16th. Then we'll do the usual behind the scene work to get the liaison and councils ready for the interviews in April. And hopefully that'll give us a slate of appointments due date on May 19th, or that'll give us a little bit of room into June. So the big change is that March 15th date, but this is the general calendar. Any questions, thoughts, feedback? Yes.
I notice we have interviews on tax day, hey? Very nice.
We'll be back at the on.
We'll be up for midnight.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
We appreciate the phone dates of folks and not really asking if it works in my calendar, and we totally get it. That's why we have 4 options. And when we get to the point where we're looking at, a little closer, we'll work with council. And as a reminder, the panel consists of the mayor, one other member of council, staff liaison, and when possible, the chair of that board or committee. So, any questions with this? Makes sense why we're doing an earlier deadline to accommodate those interview times. Okay. Well, that's pretty much it for board and committee. Good. Stop that share, and then I will start talking about the next one, because once again, it is time to talk about legislative updates. And my report this time is pretty empty because I don't have any updates, but I wanted to bring it up as an opportunity for you guys to start thinking, and as legislative concepts become bills. And I know this is a short session, so it's going to be a whirlwind of February, basically. But council opportunity at every meeting to talk about legislation tracking. So here's the deadlines. February 2nd, the session begins. First chamber deadline is February 16th. Second chamber deadline, 26th. And March 8th is constitutional sine die. I didn't see any, usually I include economic revenue forecast dates in there, but I didn't see those on the list calendar that fall in this range during the session, so.
I know there's a February forecast, but I don't know what date it is off the top of my head. I can go look.
We can throw it up, but those are the dates. Right now, I don't know if we're watching any bills, so if folks want to give me that now or want to shoot me an email later, and again, I'll defer to the council president who's in the building, as they say. I don't know that they've assigned numbers. Have they assigned numbers? No. So there's just these concepts floating out there. And there's, with only 4 weeks, it's probably going to be a pretty focused agenda, as much as the legislature can do now. So bills, anybody wants to throw any bills that they're not aware of now?
What we could always do is, if people see bills that pop up, they want us to track, we could have time on February 2nd, but other than that, too late to weigh in on bills, so.
It should be an email. I will say the one that I've been aware of, I'm not specifically records related, but in light of the Oregon Governmental Commission ruling on public meetings law, I know there has been a legislative working group discussing how to address those things, and I saw late last week, or maybe before, a fairly detailed list of ideas. I don't know if that's going to get much play or traction in this session. Maybe some small fixes, and then an idea that'll come back in more longer form next year. But that's the one concept I've heard that might be maybe.
Yeah, that one will be coming. I think it's fairly minor tweaks now.
Yeah.
Something more that LOC and Milwaukie might want to see probably delayed till 27th.
Anything else, President, you want to add about themes for the session or anything?
I think a big theme will be disconnect, the impact that has, and the transportation package, just the fallout from the referral, both in cities and counties, really hard, as well as the state. So thinking about those things. But again, I think if we come into the February 2nd council meeting with the idea of bills that we want to talk about, that first week of committee hearings really is the time to give our feedback. We'll get a second go when bills head over to the Senate or the House, vice versa, after they go to the second chamber. But really, we have that February 2nd as the deadline to, okay, pick what bills we want to talk about and then that's what will have the most impact.
So I think everyone saw the email that came from the mayor about issues over land. And my question is, do you think that those seem to be the initiative of the governor? And do you think that those are going to be pushed into this session?
And so it's a part of a housing omnibus.
Right.
Omnibus bills tend not to have really controversial elements.
This
Omnibus bills.
one does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
The
think,
one about like you can't appeal and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
so I think we'll
Yay,
see
Oregon.
what happens there.
I would just ask you to keep an eye on that, and
Yeah.
whether you agree with it or not, I would just like to know how it's going.
Yeah. Once we have a bill number, in my professional capacity, I staff the housing committee, so I also will be curious what moves and
Okay.
what gets out of it.
Great.
Yep.
Great, then we both.
It's typical practice to not put controversial elements in it. So it's always interesting to see what chairs are put in there to begin with.
Yep.
When you get bill numbers or even concepts, you shoot me an email after I start the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So since there's nothing there, we don't have any letters have been sent or being written, any questions. Anything else on legislative concept or update? Cool. Concludes.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Hold on, Mr. Tom.
We've got 9 minutes left. If you want to start, jump away, there are council reports. Council Maskey has a script, so you can always turn to him first.
I just have a really short one, and it's not actually, on the official list of liaisons, but I've just been a member of the Friends of the Library for a long time. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. They had their annual meeting 2 weeks ago. And the city gets so much benefit out of a very small group of people. And the Friends, through their various fundraising operations, book sales, plant sales, et cetera, generates pretty much all of the funds used by the library for all of the outreach activities. Like the children's reading programs and that kind of thing in the summer, the adult reading programs, the authors, talks and that kind of thing. So they raise around $40,000 per year, and all of it is spent on those activities. And it's just, it's amazing to see the impact that those things have. Like there were like, I think about 1,200 children involved and signed up for the summer reading program, everything like that. And so not only did we, sponsor the reading program itself, but we also underwrote the gift. Each child gets a book at the end of that for their own, they get to keep. So that's 1,200 books.
Yeah.
That's great. Books are great. And, they partnered with the school district so that the free lunches that the children normally get when they go to school were actually given at the library. So those kids who needed that were getting their free lunch, and they just had to go to the library and pick it up. And the library just facilitated that distribution, and the school, paid for it, delivered it, and that kind of thing. One of the fun things that they did was we, at the request of the library, we bought a puppet theater for the children's playground area, the inside playground area. And if you go down there now, you just see impromptu puppet shows.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's adorable.
That's really
But, they put out these spice packets and everything like that. They made up 50 spice packets and 47 were gone the first day.
Wow.
Well, go put some more together.
Oh, wow.
And the same thing happened with the adult reading program. So they made up a bunch of packets on those, and those were all gone. So we had to do some more. But there are some issues with the Friends of the Library, because basically we use the Harvey Street city location to store, warehouse, sort books. And without some sort of place to house those book donations, it's sort of kind of thing, then that's a major source of income that will go away. And eventually, the Harvey Street location is going to be the PFAS facility. I think that probably coming up this summer in biennium review, we'll probably have a better idea from Peter about when in the biennium that's going to happen. So the Friends of the Library are looking for another location.
Well,
And obviously, there's several different ways you skin that cat. The preferable one is to find someone who has a space that they're willing to let us use. We like the Goldilocks solution, the just right suit. But it may be a rental, it may be a purchase, who knows? I mean, we're kind of in a fortunate situation. There have been a major gift to the Friends of the Library last year and another, fairly substantial one this year. So they have a very good reserve to weather this and that kind of thing. But it's going to be a big issue so that we can continue to generate those revenues on a monthly basis. But there's around 400 members of the Friends of the Library. Obviously, there's less than 50 of them who are really the dedicated workers who do all the heavy lifting and everything like that. So we're very appreciative of them. And I will tell you that it's interesting. One of the best investments you can make is becoming a lifetime member of the Friends of the Library because it's $100. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. And you know what's in it?
it's not bad at all.
That's not bad at all. What? Yeah, I question it, but that's okay. But it's interesting that there are some lifetime members who send $100 every December.
Oh, that's cool.
And they renew their lifetime membership.
That's the cat model.
Yeah,
right? You get 9 lives.
Yeah. So I just wanted to highlight the good work of that group. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of our library. We have a great relationship with the library staff and that kind of thing. And they're doing good work. Yep.
Councilor
That's good to hear.
I just piggyback on that. I think there might have been already a solution on the storage as of last Friday.
Wow.
Yeah. So some good news.
Good things can happen if I'm out of the way.
Look at that, you already said. Other council reports? Councilor Chris Brady, you have?
Yeah, actually, I was trying to find something out on that, but I gotta get some more info. But I did have a West meeting the 15th, so that's last week. That was just like, they looked at a year in review on things that they've accomplished, their CIP plan, doing their SDC realignment. And then they actually went over some information on the atmospheric rivers that I thought was pretty impressive. And also nerve-wracking. So apparently there was the diverter that they have was at a 10 million gallon per day capacity. That's what the capacity is, and that's what it was at. It was at max capacity. The collection station was at 29 million gallons per day with a 25 million capacity. So they were over by 4.3 million gallons. And the reason we didn't see it, overflow in the sewers and things like that is just because of, and I'm not technical, so I would have to go back and find some, but just for the infrastructure that currently exists, there's enough out there that it was able to release it without having to blow off manhole covers. Crews had to, in some parts, like on the ridge line, on timberline and up there, they had to pump water. They had to go up there and physically pump water out. Because they had to shut down their pump stations because of the power outages, all the trees that fell blew the power line. So they had to manually pump some of this stuff. It was, some of the photos are pretty insane of what they had to do. Which led up to saying this is why their CIP projects are moving forward. And it's actually really good timing because they currently, the old outfall is a 70-inch outfall that has a 61.5 million gallon per day capacity. The new one is 90 inches and that's gonna have 106 million gallon per day capacity. And to put it in perspective, at 9:03 p.m. on December 18th, we were at 79.25 million gallons per day capacity, with the old outfall at 61. Having a 61 million capacity, we were way over that. So the new outfall is actually going to be able to absorb what those, what we just experienced. And then the old one is just going to turn into a secondary outfall. So we're going to be in good shape. We were lucky that it wasn't worse. But I just thought it was fascinating with how much water was just flowing through there. Now, there was a couple there was a sanitary sewer overflow in Oregon City on McLaughlin from a manhole. Was not in a publicly accessible area, and that was reported to DEQ. And that first atmospheric river was nearly 4 inches in 24 hours. So I think the second atmospheric river was even more. I think it was at about 6 inches, 24 hours. Yeah, they were working. They were working. I just thought it was fascinating how much water was flowing. And it made me a little bit concerned. And then I started thinking about everything else from Coho Point and the Clomar that they had to do and all this stuff. I mean, it's really cool. It's really neat. And if you guys are ever interested, we can talk more in depth about some of the stuff they're doing and a lot of more of the technical stuff. And it would be good actually for council to have a tour down there at West and kind of sit. Yeah. And to be able to sit down and kind of just go over, hey, like, how does this all work? Because they did a lot of work to really keep us safe and ensure that we didn't get flooded. It could have been bad. And so I just appreciate the work that they do and the fact that they kind of saw this coming. That's why they're now moving forward a lot of these projects. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Also had a CAB meeting. We didn't get a chance to get the Oregon Food Bank in this last meeting. That's scheduled for next month's meeting. So we did go back over some of our subcommittees that we're doing. We are going to offer the pay for the people's mileage, which I mentioned last time. They just sent out the vendor packets to some of the members. So yeah, we're all just, and we're also going to go over eviction resources, preventive resources in next month's meeting. We're all just kind of holding our breaths a little bit in terms of what's going on. I can tell you that personally, as the CAB chair, am not happy or satisfied with how the commission has handled certain things. Although it's an advisory board, it doesn't really feel like one because it doesn't feel like anyone's listening. So I think now is the time where, if anything, CAB is very important because of how much it deals with. And some might say, well, what does food have to do with community action board? Well, poverty, hunger is a direct result of poverty. And a direct result of our policies, which, yeah, anyways. So stay
How often
tuned.
do you have a joint meeting with the commission?
No, they're supposed to meet with us. They're supposed to have a liaison, but I can't really tell you the last time a county commissioner was present. I don't. I probably should, but I don't. And I don't want to say that it's because they're not showing up. It might just be because I forgot who it is. Because I think it was told us before. Yeah, I'm just, seeing CAB and.
I thought it was Fireside.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, she's on the run in Turkey or something. But I do also want to mention that being the one thing about CAB, it really shows you the numbers of things. So it doesn't tell the whole story, but it shows you the numbers and it shows you kind of where we are and what's going on county-wise. And I don't know. I had a lot more expectations from this county commission, specifically Chair Roberts. It's just disappointing that 2 months into this and we're at a real pivotal moment and it just doesn't feel like much attention is being put to some of these issues. It's like it's all being left to the state. Like that's a good idea, right? So, and then with that said, I did want to pivot real quick to, there was something else that I was going to talk about in council reports. Maybe not. I'll let it go for now.
Councilor Stavendor, do you have a report?
What I was gonna.
If you feel like you want to talk more, we could always revisit reports after the meeting too.
No, I was just trying to find, I thought I saw an announcement. I was trying to find it, but I can't find it. So I'm just going to go off of conjecture now. But I am pretty sure this evening there's a meeting over at the beer store that's happening like right now where they're making ice packs. And ice packs are packets of information combined with a whistle, so that you can share information about how to identify and what to do when ice is in the community. So I thought that was going on. I'm going to wander over there and see if they have some folks building those packs. I know that there's a group that has been putting those packets together, and they put together about 300 of them that went out in local food boxes. So I really want to appreciate that work. And speaking of food boxes, I also just want to really thank the Clackamas Service Center for our recent site visit. They walked us through operations. They talked about the partnership that we've had with them through the Milwaukie Heart program, and that programs provides rent and utility support for Milwaukie residents that have that are either seniors or families with school-age children. And that was one of the grants that the council put forth to the Clackamas Board of Commissioners for funding through the Supportive Housing Services measure. So that for anyone who's still watching, that program was a pilot program, and not because there's a lack of need out there, but rather that the county commission was looking for innovative ideas and put out the solicitation for pilots so that they could test. I think that there is a very strong case for that program to be continued, and what we saw in our site visit is just the overwhelming need and the response and the partnerships that they've been able to build. So huge thanks to the Clackamas Service Center, and then just kind of a call to action for council to continue advocating for that program to be continued. There's a budget process that aligns with ours, and it is the county budget process. So I think that a supportive worded letter would be helpful from council. I'm happy to put that together.
Talk about bang for the buck.
Yeah, right?
I tell you what, I came away so impressed
Yeah,
from
Yeah.
that field trip.
that was really cool.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it did remind me of the last thing I wanted to say.
We should go, it's 6:07. Let's just do council reports at the end.
Okay, that's fine.
Is
That
that okay?
actually might be better
Okay.
because you guys are gonna like this.
Okay.
Banger. Oh my gosh.
Tune in.
Episode 2.
With that,
We're setting you up for the fall, guys.
It better be good.
Comes your buddy's announcement coming later.